American Record, the case that was never closed. The JonBenet Ramsey story. On the morning after Christmas 1996, a mother in Boulder, Colorado called 911. Her 6-year-old daughter was missing from her bed. In her hand was a note, nearly 3 pages long, demanding $118,000 for her safe return. The ransom note was longer than most kidnappers ever write. 8 hours later, that little girl's body was found in the basement of her own house. She had never left. Almost 30 years later, no one has ever been convicted. This is the story of JonBenet Ramsey and the case that broke a small town and a family in half. Chapter 1. The morning of JonBenet Ramsey was 6 years old, a child pageant competitor with a wardrobe of sequined dresses and a trophy shelf that made her locally famous in Boulder. Her father, John Ramsey, ran a successful computer company. Her mother, Patsy, was a former Miss West Virginia. On paper, it was the kind of family Boulder liked to imagine itself full of. The night of December 25th, the Ramseys came home from a Christmas party. Patsy Ramsey later says she put JonBenet to bed around 9:30 p.m., already asleep in the car. At 5:52 the next morning, Patsy says she found a ransom note on the staircase. 3 pages, written on a notepad from inside the Ramsey home, using a pen from the Ramsey kitchen. It demanded $118,000, an oddly specific number, nearly identical to the bonus John Ramsey had received that year. Police were called. Friends came to the house to support the family. And in the chaos of that morning, something happened that investigators would spend decades picking apart. Nobody searched the house properly. The house was never fully searched for 8 hours. Chapter 2. The Discovery. Around 1 p.m., a detective asked John Ramsey and a family friend to walk through the house one more time, room by room, and look for anything unusual, anything that might tell them where their daughter was. In the basement, in a small room the family rarely used, John Ramsey found her. JonBenet's body was wrapped in a blanket. Her wrists were bound above her head. There was tape across her mouth. An autopsy would later determine she had died from strangulation, with a skull fracture also present. The medical examiner ruled the death a homicide. The kidnapping note, the ransom demand, the elaborate threat, none of it matched what detectives were now looking at. If this was a kidnapping, why was the child still in the house the entire time? If it was a kidnapping, why didn't she leave the house? That single contradiction became the center of one of the most argued over crime scenes in American history. Chapter 3. A crime scene compromised. Here's where the case starts to fall apart, not because of a lack of evidence, but because of what happened to it. In the hours after the 911 call, Boulder Police allowed friends and family to move freely through the house. No one sealed off the crime scene. People made coffee in the kitchen. A family friend reportedly covered JonBenet's body with a blanket before it was photographed in place. An act meant as comfort, but one that investigators say disturbed the scene. The crime scene was never fully secured. Fingerprints, footprints, and potential trace evidence were compromised before forensic teams could properly document them. Decades later, retired investigators and journalists who covered the case have pointed to this as the single biggest reason the case was never definitively solved. Not a shortage of theories, but a shortage of clean evidence to test them against. It's worth being clear here. To date, no one has been convicted of JonBenet Ramsey's murder. Multiple people have been investigated, cleared, and re-investigated over the years, according to law enforcement statements. What follows are the leading theories reported by investigators and journalists, not established fact. Chapter 4. The Theories. Theory 1. An intruder. The Ramsey family and their attorneys have long maintained that an intruder entered the home that night. They point to an unexplained broken basement window, unidentified DNA found on JonBenet's clothing, and handwriting analysis that, according to several experts, could not definitively match the ransom note to Patsy Ramsey, despite early media speculation. In 2008, Boulder's district attorney formally wrote to the Ramsey family stating that DNA evidence had cleared them, based on testing not available at the time of the original investigation. 2008, Boulder DA formally clears the Ramsey family. Document examiners hired separately by media outlets. Similarities between the note and Patsy Ramsey's handwriting, though this was disputed by other experts and never resulted in charges. A Boulder grand jury actually reviewed the evidence in 1999. According to later reporting, they voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey on charges related to the case. But the district attorney at the time declined to file those charges, citing insufficient evidence to secure a conviction. That decision remains one of the most debated in the case's history. Patsy Ramsey died of ovarian cancer in 2006. Before DNA testing formally cleared the family, she maintained her innocence until her death. Chapter 5. Where it stands now. The case remains open. Boulder police have continued to say, publicly, that they use modern forensic genealogy to periodically retest evidence from the case. As of recent statements from Boulder PD, no arrest has been made. John Ramsey has continued to publicly push for the remaining DNA evidence to be run through modern databases, arguing that the technology that didn't exist in 1996 might finally answer the question that has followed his family for almost 30 years. JonBenet Ramsey would be in her mid-30s now. Her case is still, technically, an open homicide investigation in Boulder, Colorado. So here's the question that's kept true crime forums busy for almost 3 decades. Was this an intruder who got in and out without a trace? Or was it something the Ramsey family has been protecting for 30 years? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want the full breakdown of the 1999 grand jury vote that almost changed everything, that's a separate case file I'm building next. Subscribe so you don't miss it. I'll see you in the next file.